Hi, my name is Phil Knox and I'm here in Plymouth in the beautiful southwest of England. And I'm here to meet my great friend Andrew Ollerton. Now, a few months back, we were having a conversation. We'd been friends for a few years and he told me that he's got a new book coming out. So I was delighted for my friend. I said, when's it being published? And we found out that we were publishing books on exactly the same date. Now, we thought we could either have a competition as to see who could throw the biggest launch party, or we could get together and celebrate each other. And we thought that sounded like a great idea.
Well, Phil, here we are, and here it is. What a great job, The Best of Friends. I've not seen it in print, but it's looking great. Nice job.
Yeah, come on, same to you. And I didn't realise until today, similar colour schemes.
Yeah.
You know, beautiful cover, got the mountain on the front. Love that, we'll come on to that in a moment. But the endorsements, I mean, you've done incredible getting those. If the book's half as good as the endorsements, mate, you've done a phenomenal job. The one that stands out, David Suchet, played Poirot. How on earth did you get the world's most famous Belgian detective to endorse your book?
Yeah, well, with a bit of detective work.
Yeah, very good.
I realised that he had a friend that is one of my friends, and it's always through a friend, right?
Yeah.
So, but I was so honoured, because not only is his endorsement incrably generous, but he actually became a Christian through reading Romans in a hotel room. So it's got double meaning for me. Hercule Poirot and the power of Romans today. So yeah, amazing. Yours, Phil. Loads of great endorsements, but I was struck by Les Isaac, because he was the founder of Street Pastors, right? And he says this book is invaluable. Love it. How did you get that?
So Les has just become a really good friend. He was stuck for a preacher once. I was second or third choice. And I preached at an event for him in Trafalgar Square. And we've just become really good friends.
Great.
So he's very different from me. He's a bit older than me, but he's a really good source of wisdom in my life. And so it became really natural, actually, to invite him to endorse it. But before we go any further, it'd be great for everybody to know what these books are about. So this is why you should read Romans, A Letter That Makes Sense of Life, and The Best of Friends.
Imagine Romans is the Mount Everest of the Bible, and my book is your guide. I'm going to get you safely up and down the most beautiful, challenging book in the whole Bible.
The Best of Friends is a celebration of one of God's greatest inventions. The sciences, the sages, the scriptures, the sociologists all agree it is not good for us to be alone.
We begin where Paul does, down in the valley of sin, but then we ascend to the high point of Romans 8. I think it's the summit of the whole Bible. And we get there not through what we can do, but through understanding what Jesus has done for us. Paul says, in view of God's mercy, there's no condemnation in our past, and we've got new creation to look forward to in the future. And right now, we are children of God.
Loneliness is on the increase. We're the most connected generation in history, and yet we lack meaningful relationships. And so what we do in this book is we take the example of Jesus with wit and wisdom and practical tips, and we explore how to be the best of friends.
From that summit high point, my book then takes us down into the practical teaching of Romans. How can we live out the gospel in every area of our lives? Our personal life, family life, work life, it gets intensely practical.
If you want the world to have less lonely people, if you want to see a more united church and society, and if you want to be a better friend to those around you, then this book is for you.
So Romans, A Letter That Makes Sense of Life, is your guide to the Mount Everest of the Bible. Get the book, pull your boots on, and I'll take you on an adventure of a lifetime.
So, to help people get to know us a bit better and our books, we're going to have a quick fire round. 10 seconds each or less.
Okay. Wow, 10 seconds?
Starting now. Is this your first book?
No, it's not. I wrote the Bible. A story that makes sense of life.
Wow! There for a moment.
My guide to the Bible. You?
Very good.
First book for you?
No, second book, I wrote Story Bearer, How to Share Your Faith with Your Friends.
All right. Family? Do you have a family?
I do have a family. I'm married to Danny. We've got 2 boys, Caleb who's 10, Joss who's 4.
Cool.
Night in or night out?
Oh, night out. Come on. Great, all right. What's your day job, Phil?
I have the privilege of working for the Evangelical Alliance. I'm a missiologist and evangelist, which means I study how people come to faith and I tell people about Jesus.
Cool.
How about you?
Well, I write books and I work for Bible Society and I head up their Bible engagement, so how to make sense of the Bible.
Very good. 3 passions?
Mountain climbing, rugby, and my family.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Right. Who is your book for?
This book is For everybody. It's for everybody who... No, I can. It's for everybody who wants to be a better friend. It's written from a Christian perspective, but I hope everyone can read it. How about yours?
Well, it's for Romans, friends and countrymen. I think it is kind of for every Christian. But I hope some non-Christians will read it as well. Those who want to go deeper. Embarrassing moment?
I once drove my car into my now wife's house when we were dating.
Ouch.
Terrible. What was the last book that you read, apart from either of these two?
History of the SAS. Oh, fascinating. Do you want me to talk about that?
No.
Amazing, right?
Back on.
Favourite Bible story?
Without any shadow of a doubt, Luke 15, prodigal son, blows my mind, moves me to tears every time.
You're an evangelist, you see.
Oh, of course.
Lightweight.
When have we worked together before?
You and me?
Yeah.
We did a Bible communicators training just quite recently. Loved that. Does that count? All right. Tea or coffee?
Coffee
I'm
every single...
I'm not offering to make it.
Every single time.
I only make tea.
What was the hardest bit of writing the book?
Just Romans, isn't it? It's just so massive and so huge. It's like, how do you bring it down to 10 chapters? So maybe the chapter on Israel.
Masterfully is the answer to that question.
Yeah. Most satisfying moment?
Oh, without any doubt, the moment it launches, comes out, people have it in their hands. We had a massive launch party, over 250 people. Blew my mind, amazing. That was the best bit. What is your favourite book of the Bible, not Romans?
It is Romans.
Okay.
I do love the book of Exodus, actually. Been digging into that a bit more deeply, so yeah.
Nice.
You?
John.
You're an evangelist.
Sorry, I'm an evangelist. It's got John 3:16 in it.
Favourite chapter of John?
No, I think I'll bar
Is that meant to be on the book?
My favourite chapter is on, we look at circles of friends, so I delve into the science and scripture, bring them together, and that is my favourite chapter of the book.
Nice.
2 to go. What is your worst ever injury?
Oh, I tore my cruciate ligament playing rugby.
Same.
Yeah.
Not playing rugby?
Not playing rugby, oh yeah. It takes ages to get over that. And finally, Phil, are there other resources to go with the book?
Yeah, I mean, funnily enough, The Best of Friends is worked out best with friends. So there's some small group resources, 5 sessions. You can find them with a load of videos and other bits and pieces on philknox.co.uk. Yeah, and you, Romans.
Yeah, so alongside the book, Bible Society are releasing a course, the Romans course. You can see why we've called it that. And we filmed a lot of it in Rome, actually. It is it was one of my favourite projects. So 10 sessions, group study, especially for groups who've done the Bible course, is like a perfect follow-on, as well as for those who haven't. So check out biblesociety.org.uk for that.
Very good. Now, when I read Romans, Let There Make Sense of Life, I didn't do so going, where are the crossover points with The Best of Friends? But as I did, I found out there were. So it'd be really good to look at those now. So, mate, one of the things I love as you pull the threads all together at the end of the book is you describe Romans as a rooted, relevant and relational book, is that right? And of course with relational is a real connection with The Best of Friends. Unpack that a bit for us because there's just so much gold there.
There is, yeah. I mean, I think one of the things about Romans is we think of it as some kind of, theological heavyweight. But actually what I do in the book is I show, if you start at the back of the letter, which is where in the ancient world the greetings were given, Paul greets, he's never been to the church, but he greets 27 people by name. And he describes them in the most intimate language. And I think one of the reasons he wrote Romans is because he's concerned about relationships. He wants to see Jew and Gentile really living together in harmony and unity. So he says, welcome one another as Christ has welcomed you. So actually underneath the deep theology is this real humanity. And I kind of wanted to bring that across, it's almost imagine the scene of real people, slaves and free people, men and women, rich and poor, meeting together, and the way the gospel sort of binds people that would never otherwise be in the same room together.
Yeah, I love it.
So, the power of the gospel to build friendship is extraordinary, and I think Romans, it's often been missed, actually.
Yeah,
now, on that theme, you in your book have a chapter, I think, on the power of friendship. Tell us a bit about what you unpack.
Yeah, so I read almost everything I could find on friendship, which turns out there's not much to read. I think there's 10,000 books with leadership in the title, but only a fraction with friendship. So first of all, it's underwritten on. But what I found is that the scriptures, the sages, the sciences, and the sociologists all agree friendship's incredibly good for us, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And one of the things I found is, first of all, in scripture, we don't talk about its power as much as we could. So 8 times in the creation narrative, God declares things are good or very good. First thing that's not good it's not good for man to be alone.
Yeah.
So that isolation is really bad and it is really bad for us, because then when you delve into the science, when we're with people as we are now, there is oxytocin pumping through our bloodstreams, which is called the cuddle chemical. It's the same chemical that unites baby and mother. It's really good for us. But also they found if you've got a close friend, your cortisol levels, which prepare you for fight or flight, are significantly lower. Now, cortisol is really good in short bursts, but it's really bad for us if we've got a high baseline of it.
And friendship brings it down.
Friendship brings it down.
It's lovely, isn't it?
And so if you've got good friends, you are less likely to have heart attack, high diabetes, because your body is much better at fighting those things if you've got good friends. So it really is that good for you. So mate, the next crossover area I'd love to talk about is, you mentioned right at the outset that David Suchet became a Christian from Romans. And I think you also mentioned in the book that John Wesley, Romans was a really key part of his journey to faith.
Yeah, St. Augustine.
Right.
Martin Luther.
Wow.
The list goes on.
So I thought, as I was reading this, as an evangelist, I thought this is be a great book for not yet Christians to read, or at least those on a journey, doing an alpha course or something. Tell us a bit about kind of how you see that being accessible for not yet Christians.
Well, I think Romans in its own right can bring people, just the letter, the text of Scripture, bring people to faith. We've seen that. But I also think there are some complexities to it.
Yeah.
And so what I wrote is effectively like a guide.
Beautiful.
But I wrote it with, I'll tell you what I had in mind. I had a guy called Danny in mind, right? Because he was a drug addict, not very well educated at all, came to faith. I had the privilege of pastoring him as he journeyed through faith. And I read Romans with him. And it was like the Holy Spirit made this text make sense to Danny, and I call the book Romans a letter that makes sense of life, because I've just seen it do that.
Yeah.
So for me, obviously it's for Christians, just like Romans was, but for those like Danny who aren't necessarily feeling like they're theologians of the world, but they want some truth that doesn't, culture's just moving around all over the place. Romans just is like this big mountain that sits there saying, we're not changing what we think. this is the truth.
And that's where the guide analogy comes in, right?
Exactly.
The mountaineering.
You can take on a mountain, but you can't change it. Yeah. And there's something unchanging about Romans, a depth and a gravitas that it's got. And I actually think our world is searching for that. It's like, where is there something that's deeper than just cultural thought? Romans, So I hope it'll really reach a wider audience. And in terms of your own, obviously, friendship is even more an inside and an outside message. Our world needs it more than ever. So tell us a bit about how the gospel builds friendship and how this book can be for people inside and outside. Yeah,
I guess to just follow on from what you said about searching, I think the world is searching for truth. I absolutely agree. But I think the world is also searching for relationship.
Both.
And so I think we've got a loneliness epidemic in our world. Yeah. 1 in 3 men say they have no close friends. Not much better for women. 40% of young adults say they always often feel lonely. I think the world is crying out for relationships. So I hope, and I've already had friends who aren't Christians take a look and think, I want to become a better friend. I want to understand relationship. I want deeper friendships. I don't just want quantity, I want quality. Yeah. So I hope people will read it, but also discover that the wisdom of Jesus is more than just human wisdom. It's divine wisdom, and that's what we look at in the book. But also the last chapter is about friendship with God. Because I think at the heart of the Christian message is the offer of friendship from God to us. Jesus says, I have called you friends. There's no greater love than they that lay their lives down for their friends. And what Jesus did at the cross in dying and rising again so that we could be free is an offer of friendship that we might be restored to relationship with him. So I really hope that people pick up the book for friendship, become a better friend, but also ultimately become a friend with the best of friends, who is God himself.
God demonstrates his love for us in this, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us, right? It's like
Romans 5:8.
Romans 5. It's all Romans. all roads lead to Romans.
It's all beautiful.
And just finally then, I think one of the other touch points that we see between our books is the great outdoors is a lovely environment in which to explore and make friendships. I pick up on that quite a bit with this mountain metaphor, but what's your experience of that? Have you found friendships build in the big outdoors?
Yeah, I haven't. And one of the things I draw in the book is the mountaintops and valleys that we go through, both physically. I absolutely agree. The outdoors is really key for exploring friendship together, but also the valleys. So I look at the fact that with Peter, James, and John, Jesus' closest friends, he goes up a mountain with them at the Transfiguration, and that's his spiritually highest moment, as well as probably the most the highest point physically where he reached his disciples, but also in the valley, in Gethsemane, just going to the cross. Who does Jesus want with him? Not
friends.
everybody. His inner circle of Peter, James and John. And so one of my contentions in the book is we need, in the highest points of our life and the lowest, when the storms arrive on the shores of our life, we need our inner circles with us. And so that's, I guess, one of the mountaintop valley analogy that I use in the book. And you are a mountain climber. On the back of this book is you in mountain gear. Tell us how. I mean, I got to say, one of the highlights for me was the mountain imagery throughout. Tell us a bit about that, because that's just gold.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a visual learner, so I wanted to sort of mentally give people a mental map of this is how you can imagine the whole of Romans. Think of it like a big mountain. But I did think that some of the clues are in the text. Paul says, in view of God's mercy, Romans 12. So I thought, well, actually, he is thinking that you've reached a high point. But I also think you reach a low point in Romans 1-3. It's like, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So there's this falling down to a low place, and then through Christ, not through our own effort, rising up to a new height.
I want you to know it's still.
Thank you, Phil. I'll settle for genius. But I mean, one of the things that has been really encouraging is as people have almost grabbed hold of that metaphor, it's like, whether you like mountain climbing or not is irrelevant. It's a mental map for Romans and really helps make sense. But also that sense that real adventures transform you. That picture on the back of the book was when we were filming in the Alps. We filmed this amazing film that will be released on the story of the good news of Jesus as told through Romans in this alpine environment. But, the people, there was 4 of us, 2 female instructors, myself and a cameraman called Andy, and we've stayed in touch. We're now friends because you bond in the big adventures of life. And for me, I wanted Romans to feel like an adventure.
Yeah, my best mate says that, especially men, do friendship side by side, not face to face.
I find that friendship is built best in the great outdoors. And certainly for myself, that's been my experience.
We talked about the books, crossovers. What are your hopes, mate, from this? What are your as we move forward, as people pick this up? Obviously you hope it becomes a bestseller, and who wouldn't as an author? But what are your hopes for people who read this brilliant book?
I think when you write a guidebook, it's not just a book, it's a guidebook to Romans, you would always hope that the person who's got the guidebook then goes to the place that you've guided them. So I want them to read Romans, not just the guide, but read Romans. So there's a reading plan through the book that will mean you read Romans as you read the book. And then in Romans, I want them to meet Jesus. I mean, honestly, I wrote the book because out in the wilds, camping out in the wilds with our family, one night under the stars, I just on my Kindle began to read Romans, and I couldn't put it down. And I had a profound encounter with God. And one of those moments where, almost one of those Copernican moments where it's like, I'm not the center of the universe, he is, and I orbit around him, and I want my life shaped by his message and truth. And so my prayer is that people will, through the book, get into Romans, and through Romans, get God back at the center of life where it makes sense. How about you? What are your hopes and dreams for the best of friends?
Yeah, for me, my heart is broken by loneliness in our world. So first of all, I hope there are less lonely people. But also, I think we're so divided as a world at the moment. So I hope that our fractured and fragile world is more united. I hope it happens in the church, but also in the world. I hope we have deeper friendships. I hope we don't settle for superficial, surface level friendships, but actually go real deep with a few people. I really hope as well for leaders. I meet a lot of leaders who are lonely and isolated, and I hope there are less lonely leaders. But ultimately also, I really hope people come to faith. So I hope you're not yet Christians read it and become Christians. But also, the number one reason why we as Christians don't share our faith with our friends is we haven't got enough not yet Christian friends. We haven't got enough friends. So 46% of Christians don't know a not yet Christian well enough to invite them to church. I hope in 10 years' time, more people are coming to faith because we're better friends with people. So we've done hopes. What about moving forward? What do you want people to do as a result of watching this?
Well, buy the book, pull on your boots and join the adventure, really, for me. It's like there's an adventure awaiting in that book and through that book into Romans. And so obviously, get hold of a copy of the book. But I also think, for leaders and churches, there's this amazing Romans course that Bible Society is publishing. And the combination Imagine that, the combination of individuals reading the book, but then when they meet in their small group, they're looking at Romans together and discussing passages and video content. And then there's even programmed for the Sunday series to be on Romans. And I just like, if you bring all that together, that can make a massive impact. So that's what I love people to do. Yeah. Buy the book, pull on your boots, get on this adventure. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I similarly would love people to read it, would love people to read it together. And I think what I am most passionate about is seeing people have a conversation about friendship. So don't just read it, but talk about friendship with your friends and what you need to do to improve your relationship. If you're a leader, would love you to speak on it, because I think it's probably the most important, least talked about relationship in the church. So we'd love people to do that. Get hold of it and yeah.
Well, listen, can I finish by asking you to get hold of Phil's book? I think you need this, and not just you, but your group as well. So get The Best of Friends and enjoy this amazing read.
And likewise, I would love you to get hold of this book and let Andrew be your guide into the valley, up the slopes and down the other side of Romans. Get hold of Romans, a letter that makes sense of life. It really will help you wherever you're at on the journey of faith. Well, mate, it's been great to chat. Thanks for having this conversation.
Oh, loved it. Thanks, Phil.
And we really hope that you've really enjoyed listening to us and getting an insight into our books and into our world. God bless you. Hope you enjoy the book and see you again soon.